Want to thank you for being on. It looks like we might have a small little delay, but
Yeah.
I wanted you to again share your story. This is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I
Yes.
wanted you to share your story about being a survivor, kind of talk about what you've been through.
Well, I'll start by saying I got married young. 18. I was in a relationship. This is my first time dealing with domestic violence. I was in two relationships where domestic violence was present in the relationships, but my first one was my ex-husband or whatever, and we were young. I can't chalk it up as young because you know better than to do certain things, but it wasn't. It started off as verbal, like little things, and then the red flags were there before we got married. um, but when he hit me the first time, I was pregnant with my first son. He's 17 now. So
Mm,
then after that, because I'm a very as I begin to grow and progress or whatever, it began to happen periodically, and it wasn't until towards the end of our relationship where it got really really bad. Um, it was it was financial, then it was verbal, and it was emotional, and then it was physical, more physical. um so
well,
I was not gonna really. Huh?
can we back up really quick? So 17 years
Yes.
old, I just gave statistics that I read that one out of every five, I'm sorry, that one out of every five girls have reported domestic violence in high school. So were you guys in high school or were you guys out of high
No,
school?
I was out of
Okay.
high school. um Initially, when it wouldn't work, because he would have these really bad emotional anxiety attacks and stuff like that, and it became, you know, I'll kill myself if you leave me, that kind of stuff. So it played upon my
Mm.
emotions and stuff like that. So I stayed. Then
Hmm.
I went back to it, and the final time is when I left my hometown and moved, and then we got married. Red flags all across the board, like
Yes.
everything. But you think at that time, I will say that I figured I could love him enough for him to be better. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
I felt that I could
Yes.
fix it. And God rest his soul, my father used to say, you can't love someone out of pity and expect them to give you what you need. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm. Hmm.
um that's where it came down to. And there was a lot of clashes between um our backgrounds were very different growing. You know what I'm saying? He came from a different background. So where I was ambitious, he didn't see the point in that. So we kind of clashed on that. And so when you tell someone, oh, you can't get education, it became what could I do to keep her contained, pretty much.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
and it became, well, I'm not going to sign the papers for you to go to school. Okay, fine, then I won't go to school. That kind of stuff.
Wow.
And the isolation and all that kind of stuff really came into play. um and it wasn't
You know what?
until
Let's
the
stop
first time he hit
there.
me. Hmm?
I'm sorry, let's stop there. So you're saying some key points, and I want people to really listen to some of the things that you're saying. For one, this happened 17 years old. He's physically abused you. You guys weren't married yet, if that's my understanding.
No, I was 18. I was 18.
Okay.
The abuse started after I got married.
Okay. So it started after you got married, but there were
Hmm.
red flags,
Red flags
um,
before, yes, lots of them, big
even
ones.
beforehand, because people, I often hear people say, oh, I didn't see the red flags. And I don't think it's that, because I said the same thing for years. I don't think it's that you didn't see the red flags,
I
some,
ignored it.
it's just you weren't open to it. But you seen the red flags, it was clear as day.
Clear as day. I just thought that, okay, we just need to grow up. We just need to, change some things and we'll be fine. Like I just felt like everything would be. I had this whole view of life being a picnic basket, and love. We're in love, la la la, and it would
Yes.
it would get better. Like he just needs to grow up a little bit. He's not as mature. Like I gave every excuse in the book, and I'm like, I look back. I'm 37 now. Like, ugh, No, no, sweetheart, that's not how that
Yeah.
works, you know. So it became like
What
out
what
of
was the
pity.
what was a red flag that you just one that you can give us an example, because we don't know if somebody's watching with their daughter, um, because of course to us as girls, we don't want to see things. So when our parents tell us things or somebody tries to say something, it's like, no, that's, and then if you say what the red flag is, it may change, like, what, wait a second, that I dealt with that.
The red flag before was, I will harm myself if you ever leave me. Like
Mm,
that kind of an
that's
emotional
good.
manipulation, that was the biggest thing. Like, if you leave me, I would die. I'm like, and as an
Yeah.
18-year-old, you know what I'm saying, who never really dated, never really dated, and I wasn't used to that kind of relationship. I
Hmm.
never want to be responsible for somebody hurting themselves. So you want to
Right.
stay and make sure they're okay. Like, you never want someone
Right.
to hurt themselves. Like, that was the biggest thing. Like, oh my gosh, if he hurts himself, then I'm the cause of that. So let me
Yeah.
do what's necessary so that he will be okay. And you know, that's basically
Yeah.
what it turned into. Like, I didn't want that to be the. I didn't feel like
You
I
didn't
didn't
want
want
it
that
to
on
be
my
your
conscience.
fault.
Yeah.
Right. You didn't want it to be your fault. And a
Hmm.
lot of times what happens is, and I said that's good, not that that was good, but I say that's good because that's a good point. When somebody tells you something like, I'm going to harm myself, what that does, it's a form of it's manipulation. That's what it
Yeah.
is. I'm going to do something to myself because you decided to, you don't want to be with me and it's your fault. And what happens is that draws a person in closer, because like you
Hmm.
said, who wants to be with somebody, or wants to say, who doesn't want to believe them, put it that way. It's not, it's
Right.
like you want to believe them, like that, that's what it is. So
But
so I'm glad you said that, because that's something that I'm sure people say often.
yeah, and it actually, like, there were attempts like this. The reason why I actually moved away was because it was an attempt, and I felt so bad. So I left and was like, okay, I'm just gonna go by his side so he doesn't do this again. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where it
Mm.
was. Like, I could have left it where it was and stayed where I was at, but my heart was like, oh my gosh, you actually went this far. Let me be there for you. Let me love you enough so that you can, because you want that person to live, because out of you can love that person. But at the time, I didn't realize that that wasn't love. That wasn't
Hmm.
the form of love that I should have experienced, because my father taught
Right.
me better than that. But you just, it's that form of like, oh my gosh, if something happened to him, that's my fault. And I
Right.
didn't want that.
Right. So what made you stay? How long
Whew.
were you guys together, married, and what kept you there?
What kept me there was, well, we had our first child, and I didn't want my wedding to be a failure, because there were times where we split up and there was so much going on, the anger outbursts, all the kind of stuff,
Mm.
the financial abuse, where it was, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, so you sleep in your car or you just avoid going home, that kind of stuff. It was a year of that. And I was told that, you have a baby. I'm 19, 20 years old with a baby, and you don't want to not be with the person you're married to. Like, that was the biggest thing. Those things played in my head, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a single mother. I don't want to be a statistic. I didn't want to do any of that. I didn't want my marriage to be a failure. So I stayed,
Yes.
and up got pregnant again with my second child, right?
Mm.
So made the
Hmm.
comment, who's going to want to be with someone with children, right? But before, like, out of that union could have been 6 kids, right? I only have 3.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was another way of kind of sort of, so much stuff had transpired, and at the end I had 3 children, you know what I'm saying, between, like, from 2002 to 2006, right? So I was under 25, 3 children. It was always says, who's going to want you with 3 kids? So I stuck it
Heard it.
out.
I've
And
heard
I
it. I've
didn't
heard
want
it.
to, yeah, I didn't want to be a statistic, but the last straw was right before Christmas. I think it was a fight, and I never fought back. And the first time I fought back, and it was over 24 hours, like a fight. I was fighting for my life. And my
Okay.
children with like,
We,
whew,
we have to back up on that one too. So you said I had to fight for my life, and you
yep.
said for 24 hours. Can
We
you
fought.
kind of take us through what that was like for
So
24 hours?
the conversation started the evening before when I was like, because I was paying for daycare, and I said, hey, this place is hiring. It's only 12 hours a week. Do you think you can take, a position there or whatever to help out with the offset the daycare cost, right? All I saw was a cake plate going past my face, right? And it was like he had a mental break and he snapped, and I thought he was gonna kill me. So it just became ongoing battle. Like, I think he just mentally snapped. It was just too much. And because at that time he wasn't working, and I was like, you know, um, can you help out a little bit or whatever? And it just became, it was scary. But I realized, like, I had 3 kids that were like, mommy, I heard them, and I had no choice but to defend myself for a change. I used to work so
So for
much to
20,
avoid. Yeah.
so for 24 hours, it was just fighting and fussing
Yep,
and
arguing, trying to drown. Like, it was walls being like almost put through a wall, drug up and down steps, like dead serious. I think I passed out one time, but when I fought back, I was bruised from my face. I had patches of hair missing all the way down to the back of my knees.
wow. And where were your children at the time?
They were locked in a room. I locked them in a room. I had no choice because they were trying to get in between us. Yeah.
Mm,
And it's taken me this long to talk about it, um
hmm.
because of the fact that I used to worry about, oh my gosh, his family going to know I'm talking about him, or oh my gosh, because it was it was it was scary, because I had to go back to my dad bruised, and I went to work the next day. I tried to cover it all up. I went to work the next day. Um and I tried to cover it up. That's why I don't wear makeup to this day, because I use makeup to cover the bruises. I use makeup, and so makeup is not a sign of beauty for me. It's a sign of a mask that I'm hiding. So
Hmm.
um, I went to work, and I tried to patch, to cover myself up. I wore a scarf the next day, but the looks that everybody gave me was like, why? Like, are you okay? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And that night, that before, his family came and they were like, what did you do to him to make him do that? And that statement will forever um play in my head, because it's like, how could y'all blame me? You know what I'm
And you
saying?
know what? You said something that was very, it's so common. Uh, when people are, when they're the mother, the father, the sister, the brother, the cousin, the best friend, whomever, they tend to defend the person that was the abuser.
Hmm.
And it's the question, often, which I've never gotten this question before, and thank God, but I've heard of people saying that people say, well, what did you do?
Yeah.
And I remember being told, not by him, that, well, if you didn't do this, I wouldn't have done that.
Right. If I
So
never said
now,
anything, yeah, I would have never went through that.
yeah,
And
yeah, and so now we start questioning ourselves.
hmm
We're already battling with low self-esteem. We're already battling with things. Now it's even lower because now we're wondering, well, if I would have did it differently, would have had change?
I
And
I beat myself up.
it
I
wouldn't
used to
have.
beat myself up. Yeah, I used to think about that. And
It would not have. There's
mm-mm.
no way. You know why? I'll tell you it's no way. Because of pattern. I mean, I remember we used to get into arguments over just the silliest things.
Yo.
And it'll be random. Like I just had a situation recently where somebody just messaged me out the blue and was like mad at me. And it immediately took me to what I dealt with my ex-husband. And mind you, I ain't with this person. I don't
But
really
it
know this
triggered
person
you.
like that, but they got it triggered. And
Hmm
I said, what happened from, I went from a text of, you know, you're doing great work and you're doing this to, you don't want to help me. You don't want, whoa, no, I don't, I don't do that kind of stuff. So it was a trigger
hmm
because again, now I'm battling in my head. What did I do? Because there wasn't even, I didn't get a chance to find out what happened, but I dealt with that in my marriage. And I said, nobody will ever take me back there. I don't care who it is.
Right.
But what happens is it's this mind game, and you start blaming yourself for something you did not even do.
Right.
Right?
And that's the sad part is, like, I think now that I'm older, you know what I'm saying? Now that I've gone through some stuff, more stuff, and I look back on it, and I haven't been triggered. Like, I think therapy has been my saving grace, right?
Absolutely.
But I'm not saying that I think it was, I would never say, oh, he's a terrible person. I just think that at that time frame, because of everything, you know what I'm saying? I would never bash him in any way. I would just talk about my experience, because I can't say what he's doing with the next person or the next person, but my experience was not as great. I'm not saying I was a perfect person, but you know what I'm saying? Like, not saying that that's what, I just, it hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really did.
Oh yeah.
It really hurt me,
Oh yeah.
because it's like, I actually checked out mentally from everything, and all I did was work and take care of my children, and it was like I barely, if it just took me to a different place. I'm under 25 years old, and I had to go back to my dad, and my dad was like, it was better that I did leave and come home for a little bit with my kids, because I needed to regroup. I needed to get that understanding of myself just for a little bit, because my coworkers were worried. Like, I was never really accepted from that side, what I'm saying, from that side, his family and stuff like that. And I was okay. That's why I didn't expect sympathy or understanding
Anything.
or anything
Mhm.
like that. But to blame me for those actions, that's not okay. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
like I think it took me a long time to forgive the whole situation, because it was like I didn't trust
Hmm.
anybody. Like,
Yeah.
I went,
Yeah.
I had a mental break, like a break, like, because it was so overwhelming to to think that somebody would try to take your life from a question. Then that's what I
Yeah.
triggered at. Like, and I went through the phase where I never, in my subsequent relationships, I never asked for to help me with bills or anything like that. I never did, because I didn't want to go down that path again. Not saying
Right.
that helped, because my next relationship was, it was that's a time where I nipped it in the bud straight off the bat. Police were
Hmm.
called. You go sit down and go on punishment for a little bit, because I'm not going to deal with that. Like, I'm not going to.
Right.
I wouldn't deal with it for that long. Like, I would never.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it took my
Well, let's.
kids going through therapy as well.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, we share the story.
Mm-hmm.
We've been broken, but I believe that we are mended.
Yep.
And being a survivor of something, being although we went through, we got through.
Yep.
Where are you today? Where are you? See, look at that smile.
Because I will honestly
Where are
say,
you today?
I actually, I'm such in a good place now, like to be loved correctly and loved in a good way that's free of, it's, and there's no pretense. It's like for someone to love and treat me the way that I don't have to say this is how you, I didn't have a list. I didn't say these are the things you have to do to love me. You know what I'm saying? To be
Hmm.
freely loved and understood and supported. I'm 37 years old, mind you. Like, and to finally have that, it's like I get that unconditional love from my children. I get my, you know, and it's such a, I don't have to work at an inhuman pace anymore. Like I used to throw myself into work and be so overly ambitious and put so much things on my plate so I didn't have to deal with coming home and dealing with stuff. That I'm relaxed and I can actually think freely and actually thrive as an entrepreneur. Like I have support now. I have someone like
Yeah.
every day tells me like I'm great, and it's like I listen. I didn't even ask for like seriously, I will say like I never really talk about my personal life. Like I never post pic, I never share that because all the stuff that I went through, it was like, you know, you never share that. But out of all of those relationships and those interactions, to have something, I fell in love with myself again, and I love myself for real. Like I really truly love myself, and to have someone to love me just as much as I love me and understand me just as like, it is something that is indescribable because I'm accomplishing so much. And I thought that I was
Beautiful.
accomplishing things before, but now it's like, oh my gosh, yo, like I'm thinking clearly. I am productive. I'm confident in what I do. I was confident before, but this is a different kind of secure confidence. You know what I'm saying? It's something that my father and I, God rest his soul, used to talk about. He said, he always used to tell me, you will never have to ask the person who was made for you to give you what you need. They will know. You know what I'm saying? And I never
Yeah.
understood that until now. You know what I'm saying? Like I never
Beautiful.
understood that until till now. Like I got the love for my children, but to
Beautiful.
have somebody that was made for me give me that, it's indescribable. Like I can speak about my past experiences without, you know, um, breaking down and being upset for days. Like I'm speaking about it now because I'm comfortable, because I know that there's a flip side of that. There is true unconditional partnership, support, and love there. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
it's something that I have no words for it. Like it's so different.
Well,
It
that's
is so.
well, that sounds it definitely sounds like a beautiful place to be. And
uh,
I love to hear that. I'm not there yet as far as being with someone, but I know my time is coming.
it
I was
is.
rushing it at first, but I am not rushing. When the time is right, it will happen. I
This
have
took 20
hope.
something
So
years.
congratulations to you. Huh?
This took 20 something years. So it was, we're at a
Well,
friendship.
that's yes.
And from there, like I've like, all of that aside, like being able to think so freely, you know what I'm saying, and being prepared and open,
Oh
I
yeah.
think helped with that. Because I had to
Oh
heal. Like
yeah, absolutely.
seriously, I had brick walls surrounded by pit bulls, surrounded by, you know, another brick wall, surrounded by everything before. Like I used to be such a savage with my feelings. Like, I didn't care. Like, I used to shun anything that resembled someone trying to come close to me. I didn't, nope, didn't have all that.
Yeah.
Emotionless,
Yeah.
didn't want anything.
Well,
And
I'm so glad. I'm sorry. I'm so glad that you went through. I got to start wrapping up. I got an
yes,
appointment. Sorry. But I
yes.
want you to leave with what would you tell someone that is either they just left, they don't think that there's hope, it's hard for them. Give them a word of advice.
There is gold at the end of the rainbow. You have to weather that storm before you get to that rainbow, before you get to that peace. So it may be gloomy now, but trust me, it's going to be the greatest peace you're ever going to have now that you're away from that. Like, there's no, the joy that you're going to find is worth the storm that you go through initially. Like, you
Beautiful.
have to, yeah. So that's pretty much, that's what I equated it to. I went through that storm, and now I'm like, that rainbow is here. There's calm, it's peaceful, it's beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, congratulations to you for being able
Thank
to
you.
not only just get out, but to be able to survive. Because one thing I do know is that it is very hard, truth
Hmm.
be told. It is a process. It's a
It's a
process. So
huge
I wanted
process.
to it is. And I want to encourage people. I wrote a book. It's called I Fell in Love with His Promises. And I wrote this because I was so hurt and going through so much. And I
Hmm.
had to learn how to fall in love with the promises of God and not the promises of man. And I'm seeing how my life is so much different right now, just because I've allowed myself to heal. I understand my flaws. I understand the good part about me, the other part that I can adjust and change if need be. And I want to encourage anybody that has been through, anybody that is going through, anybody that is trying to figure out how am I going to get out, to let you know there is light at the end of the tunnel. It feels good to be able to rest my head at night and not to have to worry
Hmm.
about some of the things and some of the stresses that I went through, to be able to peacefully sleep at night and not deal with the stresses of, am I, what's going to happen tonight? Are we going to yell tonight? Or, whatever. I
Yep.
do have that. So I know that when you are just patient, just be patient. Your
Yes.
time will come. Your time will come. So thank you so much for being on. Thank you so much for those that are watching. It looks like quite a few people have been jumping on to watch
Hmm.
the live. Wow, quite a few people, quite a few of my friends. Thank you all that joined us, and being a part. I want you all to know that if you want to get out, you can. I know it's not
Yes.
easy. So let me be the first to say you have to
It's
have a
not.
plan. You need to, sometimes some people just run and go, but I know,
No.
and I want to say
Plan.
this too before I go. If you have a plan to go and you have somebody to go to, for those that are the go-to people, it takes about 7 times for a person to actually
Yep.
leave a person back and forth before they say enough is enough. Be patient.
Yep.
You don't understand what they're going through. It's not that easy. It's not, oh, they're crazy, they're
Not a
stupid, they're
clean
dumb.
break.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a dependency.
So
You got to
I
break it.
thank you. I love that word. Dependency. That's the key word right there. It's a
Yep.
dependency. They're depending on something. So you have to break that. So continue to
Hmm.
watch Kama Speaks. We're going to go live on Monday, the 21st. I have Francis Thompson that'll be coming on. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for coming on, sharing your story, and being such a
Thank
brave soul to
you.
do that. And we don't know how many people that you're helping with your story. You have a wonderful night. And for those that are
You too.
watching,
Thank
share this
you.
video. Thank you. Share this video and congratulations on your happiness.
Thank you. You have a good evening.
You too. Good night.